Hey everybody, welcome to American Idol Unaired. I'm your host, Bennett Shear, and today we have another singer that you didn't see, but it's our very first contestant from season 16 of American Idol. Really excited about that. Please welcome Stephen Quinn.
What's up? How are you?
I'm great. As I just said, this is new territory for us on American Idol Unaired, so I am super stoked. As usual, I would love to get that full introduction of who you are, about your time on American Idol and your background. Whatever you want, take it away.
So my name is Stephen Quinn. I'm 23 years old. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. I currently live in Middleburg, Florida now. I've been singing for about 10 years now. Um, and when I auditioned for American Idol, season 16, that was my very first time auditioning for American Idol ever. I mean, I'd auditioned for some other different things, but that was my first time American Idol, and I grew up watching American Idol as a kid. Like, that was me and my family's thing. When it was American Idol time, we sat down, and all the way back to even whenever you had to, like, call in on your house phone to vote. So that was always cool to watch that, and then I actually got to be on American Idol, something that was always a dream of mine growing up. Um, so I went and auditioned in Orlando, Florida, which was super cool. That's where, because it's only 2 hours from where I'm from, so it was just a hop, skip, and a jump away for me.
That was the first season on ABC. The show had just been canceled. It was coming back. And if you're an American Idol fan, it must have been very exciting and almost kind of like a new opportunity. I don't know if you had thought about doing it before when it was on Fox, or if this was just something that you would have kind of done regardless. I mean, what was that like for you?
Um, I don't know if I mean, I guess I'd kind of thought about it, but I never really pursued it. And then whenever I heard they were coming back, I was like, well, I think this might be, a great time for me to give it a try. They're kind of restarting a new start for me. So I think it kind of worked out and was meant to be that way.
For sure. Now, you said that you were a fan. Who were some of your favorite contestants that you watched?
One of my all-time favorite, and this is just from American Idol and all the way even to now, has always been Carrie Underwood. I love Carrie Underwood. Um, Back more recent, I love Scotty McCreery and Lauren Elena. They were one of my favorite seasons, and even to now, they're both one of my favorite singers, both of them. I got to meet at my audition in Orlando. I got to meet Jordan Sparks and Ruben Studdard. They were both there, which was really cool. And we did some pictures and stuff like that, some promotional stuff in Disney, which was really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that part of the big thing with bringing Idol back, obviously it's on ABC now, so there was so much Disney attachment, and I'm sure that there was a lot of that involved. And I didn't even really think about that. So, of course, they have ways of bringing alumni. In fact, season 20, I know Lauren Elena was part of that, and Ruben and Jordan. A lot of those artists were part of season 20 in Hollywood Week. But for you, what was going on in season 16? What were they? Did they just have alumni that were coming to the auditions to kind of encourage you guys, or how was that
Yeah, I think
happening?
that was kind of their thing. They were just kind of there for encouragement and cool. They little pop in and some people got to take pictures with them. They were also doing um, we did a ribbon cutting ceremony in Disney, like Disney Springs. I don't know really what they used it for. I think it was for like an article or something they did. So they were kind of there for that, and they took a certain group of us that was just randomly picked out of line, and they took us, and we were kind of crowded around Jordan and all of them, and they did the ribbon cutting ceremony. For some reason, I want to say that might have been like the first round of auditions, but I don't remember. I think they did the first round of auditions in Disney, kind of like, because they were a part of it now. So
Right.
that might have been the reason for the ribbon cutting ceremony.
Now, is this like actually filming the judges' auditions, or is this just waiting in line to do producer rounds?
In front of producers.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Well, I mean, it's a different world now, and it was a different world as far as American Idol auditions work because pre-COVID, you actually had to wait in line, and this is just how the show had worked forever, and COVID changed everything, and that's what I've been talking to a lot of my guests about. But, back in season 16 and really up until then, the way it works is you wait in line with all these people, which obviously took a lot longer, but was sort of more the traditional way of auditioning. So definitely interesting to think about how things have changed since then.
Yeah, and I'm kind of glad that I got to experience that, even though in the moment it was kind of like, a lot and exhausting. I mean, me and my mom got in line at like 5:30 in the morning, I think, and So we waited all the way until then, and by the time I got completely done with all the auditions and everything, it was about 3:30 in the afternoon. It was outside too, so it wasn't inside. They just had tents up and it was outside, and of course it's in Florida, so it was really, really hot. But so we kind of got the whole, original experience of what people used to experience even before COVID and all the way to the beginning of American Idol.
I want to kind of take a pause from the show itself and ask a little bit about who you are as an artist. I know you mentioned a lot of country singers. I'm not sure if that's your genre or who you look up to, but kind of more outside of Idol, who are some of your influences in the music industry?
So growing up, I listened to country music a lot, and that's like my, love. But I also take from many other genres. I love R&B, soul, a little bit of classic rock, that kind of stuff. My main influences were probably Rascal Flatts, Brooks and Dunn. When it comes to soul, one of my first songs that I ever sang was "Sitting on the Dock of the Bay" by Otis Reddings. That was in my top like 8 songs that I learned when I first started singing. Hunter Hayes, so kind of those soulful country singers, and then Brooks and Dunn, they kind of had the rock country going on. So that's kind of my style, is I guess a bluesy rock country.
Now I'm getting curious about kind of those early moments of what got you into performing or even your first performance and really the beginning of your musical journey.
So it's kind of a funny story because I know a lot of people, either have music background in their family or, maybe their parents were singers or whatnot. But I kind of just came from a family that we played baseball and football. We were very athletic and played sports. I played baseball and football until I was about 12, 13. And then I mean, we always, like I said, grew up listening to music. We did everything with music. And I was actually homeschooled my whole life. And my mom and my grandma was my teachers. And they would even let me listen to music while I was doing math or something like that. Even doing school, I was listening to music. So then it kind of just came around to, I guess, realizing that I liked to sing and that I could sing a little bit. And then um, after I would kind of got done with the sports thing, I decided to get a voice coach, and from then on, I've been singing since then. And I was about 14 at that time.
And so remind me just the timeline, how old you were when you auditioned for Idol.
Let's see, 4 years ago. So I was 19, I think, 18, 19. And it was actually my birthday the day that I auditioned in front of the judges.
Do you feel like from then till now, and I know we're going to talk later about what you're up to at the moment, but do you feel like anything has changed as far as who you are as an artist or how you feel as a performer, your confidence, anything like that? Because it has been a minute since you were on the show.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, going on the show helped me grow as an artist, as a performer. I mean, just all around it helped me a lot to grow. I didn't have any original music out when I went on American Idol. So as soon as I got back, I finished. I had some stuff that I was working on as far as writing, but I'd never really thought of, recording and releasing yet. And so as soon as I got back, I recorded and released my very first original song. So that kind of, the show helped me to get like a kickstart on my own original stuff. So that was really great for me. And ever since then, I mean, I've definitely just been growing and working even more on my original artistry.
Well, I know you mentioned that it was your birthday when you were in the judges' room, so I'm curious if they like made a big deal about it or if the producers knew to tell the judges, hey, it's this guy's birthday, let's have a big happy birthday or anything like that.
So they did. I'm trying to think. I think it was Lionel Richie's birthday. It was one of the judges' birthdays, so they actually already had a cake there for whoever's birthday it was going on. And so then whenever they heard that it was my birthday, they had the cake there and gave me a piece of cake and whatnot. So it was really cool. But it actually, I had my whole family there. I had family, friends, probably about 30 people that traveled to, it was in Savannah where I auditioned. So they all traveled down there and waited in line from like 7 in the morning. And we were expecting to go to dinner after. Well, by the time we got done, it was, I think, midnight, almost 1 o'clock by the time I got done with the whole audition process. So we ended up not being able to go to dinner that night, but we went out the next day. My dad actually went and got pizza. There was like a 24-hour pizza place around the corner, so we went and got pizza and wings and just went back to the hotel. So I was like, well, I mean, can't complain. I made it through and got pizza.
Yeah, for sure. So again, I know it's a different process, and I'm so used to sort of the whole, okay, so you get on with the producers on the Zoom call, and this is how it works. But for you, you wait in that long line, you get in line at 5:30 a.m., and then I guess going back to that day, it ended with you hearing that you would eventually go to Savannah, but getting to Savannah doesn't initially mean going to the judges, if I'm correct. You still have to do another round of executive producer auditions, I'm thinking. Is that right?
So I think that's how they usually would have done it, but for some reason in Orlando, the way they did it is they actually had the executive producers there. They had a bunch of different tents set up, and each tent had, two or three producers, and then the one tent had the two executive producers at it. So everybody would audition at whatever tent that they, were um, put in line to go in front of, and then once they did that, they would wait, and then they would go to the executive producer tent and audition a second time. And then if they made it through that one, they would take them to another table where they asked them questions. What city would you want to audition in front of the judges in? All of this, and then they did like a little recording interview thing, and you sang another short little song, and then that was it. Then they took all of that and they just contacted you at a later date.
So all in that day that you waited in line, you were able to audition for the show, just not knowing where it was going to lead. But by the end of the day, you knew you were going to go and sing in front of the judges.
Right. Really cool that I didn't have to go to another place or do another thing later down the road before going to the judges. It's like I just got it all done in one day.
What was the time gap, if you remember, between having to wait in line that day and then eventually getting to meet the judges?
I think it was about 2, maybe 3 months, and then it was kind of the same after in front of the judges. It was about another 3 to 4 months before going to Hollywood.
So for you, do you feel like every day was just kind of constant American Idol preparation, practicing, thinking about what was going to happen, or was it about sort of waiting until it got a lot closer to really start preparing and thinking about it?
I would say, I mean, I still, did my normal everyday stuff, and I think at the time I was performing out a little bit in town, so I was still doing all of that. But then I definitely was, getting myself prepared with my voice coach and deciding on what songs and what I was going to wear, and all of that stuff was definitely constantly going on up until that time.
Definitely excited to hear about everything that happened once you got to Savannah. But first, guys, if you're enjoying this conversation, just want to remind you to hit that subscribe button because you don't even have to pause. If you're on YouTube, if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever, you should see a subscribe button right there. Tap that button so that you don't miss a note of American Idol Unaired future episodes. Whenever new stuff is coming out, you can be the first to know. Okay, so you get to Savannah, and I know we heard a little bit of a glimpse already about the pizza late at night, and you obviously were there for a long time, and we know that you made it to Hollywood. But where does the story start, really?
So, as I mentioned before, it was probably around 7 in the morning, and most people were just there with either themselves and maybe their parents, or they might have had a few people with them, and then there's me, and I decided to bring like 30 people with me, and I'd made shirts with my name on it, and they were all neon colors, so they were like neon pink and lime green, and so you couldn't miss our giant group of people, and we waited in line starting, like I said, 7 in the morning, and then I think the line kind of started like outside of the little fenced in area, and then you got inside, and then there was we were outside most of the time, but then there was some area that was inside. And then they would do, boomerangs with you with the American Idol things and little interviews. They did a little interview with me and my grandma. And then they took me and my grandma and my parents, and we did some B-roll stuff like in downtown Savannah. And this was all going on throughout the day while I was waiting for my audition, which I ended up being, in the last group of people that auditioned that day. So there was a good group of us that were there just all day, just sitting around, hanging around,
Yeah.
and doing all that stuff before getting to audition. Which I didn't, really get like nervous or anything, but I get super anxious, and like I think it's anticipation. I don't really like anticipation, so I'm like just sitting there like, okay, when is it my turn?
Right.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I was glad that I got to do it and made it through.
Well, another thing is they had more cities back then. I think now this past season, they only sent contestants to three cities, and back then I believe it was five or six. So, there's probably a little bit less people, and now again now they're they have to have more days in say Austin, Texas or Nashville because the cities in season 20 were Austin, Nashville, and LA, and there would be there for like 5 days because there were only three cities. But for you, if there's five cities, there's probably only like 2 or 3 days of filming, so they have to pack a lot more into a shorter amount of time, which
Right.
I guess works in your favor because if you're a contestant who is placed on day 5, you're sitting there all week. I'm guessing you were there for what, a day or two at most?
Yeah, we were probably there for maybe like a weekend.
It's such a well-oiled machine. They got to work quickly, and they do work quickly because they have a lot of people. And it is interesting too and cool that despite even not getting aired, they really do give you that star treatment. They want to get all this footage of you and probably film hours of it, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool that they, even though they may not ever use it or didn't use it, they still allowed me to experience it, which was really cool and fun, and especially for my family, because that's so different for them because they're not, in the music business. So it was really different for them to be able to experience it as well.
And I love that you guys had the neon shirts. You got to stand out. I mean,
Yeah, you got to.
why they didn't put that on TV, I don't know, but it was definitely fun. I'm sure. I'm sure everybody else was like, "Oh wow, look at that."
They definitely talked about it at the end of the day. Like they had a little interview with the judges, just kind of. I don't remember where it was at on American Idol's website. It was on the news actually in Savannah, and they did an interview and they had mentioned about they were like, yeah, one contestant had like 30 people, and they were like, good thing he made it through. That would have been a bad
Oh.
home with 30 people after getting a no.
Do you remember any of the other contestants that you met? I mean, this is a long time ago, but I'm sure you had some time to meet other people.
First one that pops in my head was actually goes back to the first audition in Orlando, and Katie Turner was actually there, which is really random because Orlando's not close to where she's from at all. And I don't remember. I think I asked her, and I don't remember why she said she picked Orlando, but I think maybe because her and her family wanted to go to Disney or
Right,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes
Made
sense.
like a whole trip out of it. But it was super cool that she was there because that was my first time meeting her, and I was watching her audition from a distance, and I want to say she sang. I think she sang "Ride" by 21 Pilots, and she, as you know, she's very, very unique. And I just remember sitting there and watching her audition and just her rendition of that song. She played the guitar, and I was like, this girl is just like crazy talented. I was like, her voice is so unique, and the way that she, like I said, did a rendition, her own rendition of that song, I thought was super cool. And that song was really popular at that time. And then, I mean, ever since then, all the way through to Hollywood, we still, had a good time and were friends together. She was kind of in my group. I'm sure talking to the other contestants, they probably said the same thing. There's like, you have your little like cliques, your little group of people. Everybody's friends, but you have your really close ones that like all hang out all the time. And she was kind of in my group of people. So that was really cool that we kind of started together and made it all the way. And of course, she went even further, which was awesome. Savannah, I'm trying to think if there was. Oh, Journey. I got to meet Journey in Savannah, and I she became one of my best friends just because even to this day, like I'll still message her and check up on her. We don't really talk, all the time, but I just like to check in on her, and she was so sweet. Like she just had a very nice and pure like soul, and they did a like pre-audition before you went to the judges, so you got to go in front of the producers again or executive producers right before, and I guess just kind of like do a little rehearsal. And I got to go right behind her for that one, and then I think she ended up auditioning in front of the judges before me earlier on that day. But she was one of the only people that I really remember meeting in Savannah, and we hung out the whole day. So
Yeah, those are actually two of my favorite contestants. And fun fact, if I remember correctly, they got voted off on the same episode, but they were two of my favorites from that season, Katie and Journey.
they were very unique personalities and unique voices.
Yeah, I really felt that that season, not just, I mean, it was important, being that it was a reboot and that it was a new network, they needed to really make a mark, but I've really felt that the contestants that were seen, and obviously we didn't get to meet a lot of the unaired contestants, but, you know, there was a unique talent pool that I felt, and I think every season since then, something about having that show on ABC. I mean, it's the same production team and everything, but I feel like they've really stepped it up in terms of the people that they've managed to find, in terms of unique artists and just different personalities. I think it's been exciting to watch.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree that that season was one of the best ones that I remember talent wise. There were just so many talented people, and I thought that was awesome.
A lot of people were surprised when it came down to the fact that they were bringing it back so soon. I mean, literally less than 2 years, they made the whole big deal about that it was the farewell season, and it almost seemed a little bit improper. And yet they bring it back, and I thought that the talent was better than the people that they had on the farewell season. Like, way better. I mean, I don't mean that in a rude way. I'm just being honest. I think that it was some of the best talent I had seen. Actually, funny enough, I've always said that my favorite season was season 10, which had Scotty McCrae and Lauren Elena. And I think that season 16 at that point was the best season since season 10.
Yeah, I agree.
But there's so many talented people, and just the fact that you made it to top 50, which we haven't even gotten there yet, but it really is crazy because you have to make it past such a big talent pool to get to that point.
Yeah, you see a lot. I mean, going through the whole experience, you see a lot of really talented people that, don't make it as far as you think they would have. And it's just crazy because, I mean, you're just thinking about it, you're like, how did they not make it further? But I mean, it's just the whole process and they're looking for specific stuff. So, it's always hard. I can't imagine if I was, a judge or a producer that had to sit there and pick people. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm excited to finally hear about what happened when you got to the judges. It had been a long day, of course, a lot of anticipation. So, what were you feeling?
Like I said, the anticipation kills me. So once I finally got there, I was like, okay, like great, we're here. I'm not a super nervous person. Probably now doing an interview, like any interviews that I had to do or any interview that I have to do, I get nervous. But when it comes to like singing, it's like I know what I'm doing. Like this is just, home. Like I'm comfortable. So I didn't really get too nervous. Maybe when I was talking to the judges, I get nervous when I have to talk. I always say something stupid or forget, how old I am or something stupid like that. But other than that, it was very just, the whole experience. I always tell people I was never nervous. I was just more soaking in the experience. So like I was more focused on the whole experience itself and just learning and trying to soak it all in and enjoy it most of all. So I tried to, keep my nerves at bay so that they didn't let me not enjoy my experience.
Well, another thing is that this was the first time that these judges were on the show. And so you had never seen them on TV. You had no idea what they were going to be like. The previous judges were Keith Urban, Jennifer Lopez, Harry Connick Jr. That's the last group that you had seen. Nobody was really going to know what they were like. And, now the contestants that are doing season 19, season 20, if they watch the show, they see them, and the judges themselves are experienced. They've known what they've gotten themselves into. But the judges are brand new, and then you're brand new to the judges. So I think there is something about that I imagine might make it even more nerve wracking for all of you guys that first season, anytime you have a completely new group of people.
Right. Yeah, because you definitely didn't know like what to expect. But it also kind of might have counteracted and helped because it's like, well, they're new, so we're kind of both new here and not, knowing what to expect. So that kind of also helped a little bit too, counteracting that.
Yeah. Or from a television sense and an entertainment sense, it's kind of recapturing that magic of like, anytime something's new, everybody's like, well, what are we doing here? And, I think it's fair to say that American Idol will never be the same as the very beginning when you had Randy, Paula, and Simon. But now you have a group that's like, okay, what are we doing here? And you kind of had that freshness again of, I mean, they're a bit of a crazy bunch. I mean, Katie's wild and Lionel's inspiring and at the same time kind of silly, and Luke's definitely kind of goofy. So I think it was definitely a breath of fresh air. I'm sure you probably felt that way.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, pretty much exactly how you see them on TV, that's how they are, whenever you're working with them. I mean, they're just very down to earth, goofy. Um, Lionel's more of the serious one to keep Luke and Katie on track.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think they are a great group of judges.
Would you say that their chemistry was there even though it was their first time together?
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, they were very connected, which I assume maybe they did stuff together before, they jumped right into the show. Maybe they kind of, gelled together beforehand because, I mean, they were just like on it.
Yeah.
I mean, they seem very connected. The way they bantered and bounced off each other, I thought they do that very well.
Hmm. So speaking of banter, when you walk in the room, what is it like? I mean, I'm sure they're talking, but then you come into it. What is it like before the singing actually starts?
Um, that part is probably a little nerve-wracking because you're walking in and you got the lighting and the cameras and the whole big production, and you walk into this big open floor and you're standing in front of three very talented, very huge artists, and you're just kind of like, okay. But I mean, they jump right into it and, hey, how you doing? And ask who you are, where you're from, and kind of, I mean, they just, keep it rolling. They jump right into it and keep it rolling. Like you said, they had a bunch of stuff to fit in a short amount of time, so they don't mess around. And just got in straight into singing after the kind of a quick introduction. Great, what are you singing for us? And then, and now after I sang my first song, I ended up singing two, one or two more. I know I sang one, and I'm possibly two more songs. So I actually got to sing two or three songs in my audition.
And what were those songs?
The first one I did was Wanted by Hunter Hayes, and I did that because that song is the very first song that I learned when I first started singing, and the first song that I sang out in public in front of people. So that was like my song that I just would use for everything because it meant so much to me and because I was super comfortable with it. Um, and back then, a lot of people, when I was learning to sing and starting to sing out, people thought that I sounded like Hunter Hayes. So it fit my voice really well. And then the other one that I did was Play Something Country by Brooks and Dunn.
It's very fitting. I remember you mentioning both of those artists, and I think it was a smart move to go with people who you knew and who you were comfortable with. Because, I mean, it's not just staying in your comfort zone, it's also knowing what you do well.
Right.
What was the feedback?
Um, Honestly, any interaction that I had with the judges, I feel like are just like blanks for me. I don't know if it was just like if it was nerves, then I didn't really feel nervous, but the nerves were like kind of making me, kind of like black out almost. I feel like because I remember not much. I don't remember much of their feedback or what they said. I mean, I do remember Luke was kind of iffy on me at first. He wasn't sure. Lionel thought it was great. He liked it, and Katie loved me from the beginning. She loved everything about me from the beginning, which was great to have her support throughout the whole process.
And obviously, you got the golden ticket. I'm sure you remember that part.
Yeah, I did. I did. Lionel said yes, Katie said yes, and I got a no from Luke Bryan, but it kind of gave me that push to, kind of prove myself throughout the process and kind of say, hey, like, you're gonna like me by the end of this type
Yeah.
of. And then they took, of course, all of my big group of people and like crammed them into the little room outside of the audition room so that when I came out with the gold ticket, they were all there waiting for me. Big crowd of people, which was really awesome. That's when they gave me the cake. Was when I came out. They gave me the piece of cake when I came out.
Was that the producers or the judges?
The judges knew about it, but the producers had the piece of cake for me because I think it was right before I went in. I told the judges, yeah, it's my birthday, and they were like, well, that's funny. We just got done eating cake.
Oh,
They had just finished doing the little celebration for, I believe it was Lionel's birthday, is who I think it was. So that was cool that they did that whole thing and how it worked out that the odds were that they had just done the cake. And then I come in, I'm like, hey, it's my birthday.
sounds like you said you had quite a bit of time between auditions and Hollywood Week. So getting to Hollywood Week, it's a whole different level. I mean, you're in Los Angeles, and what do you remember about arriving there and just kind of facing this new element of the competition?
It was very different because I'd never been to, LA before. I'd been to Vegas once, but I'd never been to Hollywood or that area. So it was really cool to kind of be able to get to experience and see all of that outside of the competition. Um, a little, I guess, intimidating coming into such a big city and a bit huge contest with all that talent, but it was definitely, I was looking forward to it.
Did you get a chance to meet some more people kind of in the beginning before like competition starts? You sort of meet everybody. I mean, there's so many people that you probably have the chance to talk
So I
to.
actually met one contestant in the airport here in Jacksonville. She was coming from down south a little further, and it was kind of just one of those things that like we both saw each other and we just could kind of tell that we were contestants somehow, some way. So we just struck up a conversation and figured out that yeah, we were both going to Hollywood. And um, me and her name was Olivia. We instantly, had a connection and became really close friends. And sat together on the plane and played little. I don't even remember what we played. Some game in her book. We were playing some tic tac toe and all kinds of other stuff. Oh, that's what it was. We were drawing pictures with our eyes closed, and the person had to guess what the person was drawing with their eyes closed. So, helped to pass the time on the plane ride, and we were even hung out, during Hollywood Week and all that stuff. We at one point got locked in a stairwell in the Roosevelt hotel. We weren't locked in the stairwell, but we didn't know how to get out. And so we called one of the producers and we're like, we're trying to go to dinner and we're stuck in this stairwell. So they had to come and get us out.
That's funny. Oh my gosh. Was it one of those things where once they told you how to get out, it was obvious, or was it still like was it a confusing stairwell?
It was you would go out on like whatever floor you were on, you would go out the stair. We just thought let's take the stairs instead of the elevator because the elevators were really slow and busy as well because there were so many people there. Well, when you go out the door, you can't open it to get back in. So then we were going down the stairs and went all the way to the bottom. Well, the bottom door said it was an emergency exit and that the fire alarm would go off if you went out it. So we're like, and it was the street exit. So we're like, okay, so where are we supposed to get out then? Because all the other doors were locked. So then this other guy comes out and we're like, no, don't let the door close. And he let the door close. He's like, why can't you just go out that door? And we said, well, because the alarm's going to go off. And he's like, I'm just going to test it. So then he just went out and it didn't go off. So then we just went out behind him. And we were like, okay, whatever.
That was deceiving.
Yeah, we were like, we just didn't want the whole alarm to go off in the hotel and everybody
Yeah.
be like have to run out of their rooms. But we got out. But it was a funny experience. I still have videos from that.
Oh my gosh.
Sitting there singing in the stairwell.
With all those people there, like before you really start getting to the competition, they've got producers kind of giving you your marching orders and you all have to gather and hear about the week and stuff like that. That's not even being filmed. They just kind of tell you what's going to happen.
Right. The first thing we had to do the very first night we got there was we all waited in line and we went and they took like a headshot picture of us and kind of just made sure, I guess, that they had all of our right information and all of that. And it was kind of like a check-in process. And then we found out who our roommate was for Hollywood Week. And they just gave you a, key. Actually, they didn't tell you who your roommate was. You just got a key and you went to your room, and I actually went to my room and the guy wasn't even there. So I was like, I don't know who my roommate is. And then I went to dinner and came back and he was already asleep, I think, or he was either asleep or was still gone. So I just like went to bed and I actually didn't meet him till the next morning. And you have to get up. They expect you to be down in the lobby, camera ready by like 6 in the morning. And most of the time you had late nights before, whether it was rehearsal or whatever it was that they had going on. So that was probably the hardest part of Hollywood Week was just the lack of sleep and all of the stress on top of it, which I think is like part of it. It's kind of a test to see if you can handle it. So I just remember waking up the first morning and because I was like set 6 alarms. I was like, I'm going to be up, get warmed up, get dressed, get ready. Well, he was still sleeping and I'm like, I didn't know who he was. And I'm like, are you going to get up? We got to be down in the lobby in like 30 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
I was just like waking him up and didn't even know who he was.
That's funny. It was a little bit different the way that they did Hollywood Week because it was still kind of the original format where you have lines of 10, and I guess the only difference now is they call it genre challenge. So you would have had to pick a genre, which frankly, for you, it sounds like would have been a little tricky considering that you have influences from different genres, a lot of country, but you mentioned soul and R&B. So maybe it was easier for you in that sense. And then, of course, we'll talk about group round. But since it's not like a formal, okay, put yourself in a specific group, how did they send you into a line to do the lines of 10 round?
It was just very random. I mean, there was no rhyme or reason that I know of. I don't even honestly remember. I think the only person I remember that was in my line for sure was Olivia. She happened to be in my line. Other than that, I don't really remember who was in my lines of 10.
Mm.
But like I said, it was very random. There was no genre or anything. It was just everybody and the line was very different in their own way.
So I want to hear what song you sang that first round and how you felt the performance went.
I actually sang um, "So Lonesome" by Hank Williams Sr. And I just did kind of um, an a cappella, my own rendition of it. Very because I mean I like I said I am country, but I sing very the Rascal Flatts style where it's kind of like soulful. So I kind of did that kind of rendition of it. And I mean they loved it. I got good feedback on it, and it got me through, which was great.
Did the judges give feedback that round? Because I know a lot of times, at least more recently, they don't tell you anything. They just wait to kind of give you the results for that round.
Yeah, I don't know that they did give us feedback that round, actually. Um, no, I don't think they did. They did get. I think they gave us. No, they didn't even give us feedback in the solo round either. The last solo round, they didn't give us feedback then at all either.
And then obviously you made it through, so they liked
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely want to talk about group round and see what you might remember from that because it's a totally different dynamic from what they do now with duets. I don't know if you remember the people you were with or how many people you were with, but I mean, I'm wondering what you recall about that process.
So I remember my group. I don't remember all the names. Olivia was in my group, and we kind of picked our. It was kind of me and Olivia, and we were like, let's pick our own group, and we, ended up with two other contestants that I don't really remember who they were. They weren't kind of in my group of people. They just ended up in our group, and when it came to picking the song, they just had a big whiteboard of songs to pick from, and it was just a matter of us all agreeing on a song, whether it was our genre or not. It was like, yeah, I kind of know that song. I can work with that. It's kind of what we ended up doing. We picked "Me and My Broken Heart" by Rixton.
Mm.
Rick, I think that's how you pronounce it.
Hmm.
Which I was just trying to remember the other day. I was like, I don't remember what I did for my group round, and I was like, oh, "Me and My Broken Heart" by Maroon Five. For some reason, I thought it was Maroon Five, and then I looked it up. I was like, that was not a Maroon Five song, but they do sound very similar. Is where I kind of got that idea from. But that's the song we did, and like I said, there was really all four of us. We didn't know the song. It was just like I said, we kind of agreed on it because it was like, yeah, I think our voices will work good with this, and it was kind of just it's fair that we all don't know it type of thing.
Right, right.
Oh, and then, of course, you work with the voice coaches that night. Like, you immediately pick your song and go get in line to work with the voice coaches because you want to get in line as soon as you can so that you can go to bed earlier. And we honestly didn't stay up too late, maybe like 12 or 1. It wasn't anything crazy. I know there was other people that stayed up, 2, 3 in the morning. And then, like I said, we had to be up and ready and in the lobby by 6 in the morning. So, but that's why we were like, let's just, get down to it, get our parts figured out. I do not know harmony. Like, I cannot sing harmony. I'm such a lead singer that I can hear it a little bit, but even to this day, I still am suck at singing harmony. So that was probably my biggest struggle during group round is just trying to sing harmony. And I was having the other contestants in my group kind of teach me. I was like, just tell me what part I have to sing, like how to sing it, and I can sing it. Um, so that's kind of how I did that. They just sang the harmony part for me, and I just recorded it and just listened to it over and over again and tried to match it and did the best I could. As far as our actual performance, it wasn't great. It was kind of messy, and I think somebody or one of us forgot our words. But I mean, that's just all comes with the group round, the stress of it all, the nerves, and being paired with people that you're not really comfortable with, like you never sang together before, and you had 4 hours to rehearse the night before. So it's just kind of all part of the process. Like I said, I feel like a lot of that kind of stuff is just more of a test to kind of just put you through it and see if you can handle it and come out on top.
Yeah. I mean, right, the judges typically give you a break if they've seen what you've done the previous two rounds. But do you remember any of the comments? I mean, I'm sure you can remember everything they said to you and this person and that person because it's four people, but anything that they said particularly to you.
I do not remember. I just kind of remember that they kind of had noticed that it was very like a very messy performance. and I believe only two of us made it through. I don't remember. I honestly don't remember who else made it through, but I believe there was only one or two of us that made it through that round.
Was it Olivia or someone else?
For some reason, I think it was Olivia. I'm pretty sure it was Olivia because I think I remember seeing her perform the next solo round. But yeah, I don't remember.
You should call her up if you ever contact. Be like, hey Olivia, remember that time that we were on American Idol and got stuck in the stairwell and did Me and My Broken Heart? What do you remember?
Yeah, I should. I need to call her. She's actually married now and has a baby, and she's lives in Nashville. She's got a lot of cool stuff going on. She does more of the praise and worship type music. She's doing good from what I see on Instagram.
Yeah, very cool. So did they have another solo round before you went to that like showcase round in front of the audience at a different venue?
Yeah, so they had another. It was like the top 100, I think, or there was 102 or something like that after the group rounds.
Hmm.
And it was still in the Dolby Theater. They did
Right.
all in the Dolby Theater, and it was another solo round. And basically, I think the first round was kind of you just sang like a short, part of the song, and it was either, I want to say a cappella, or maybe you could accompany yourself. I don't really remember. And then, of course, the group round, um, they accompanied you for the group round or played a track or whatnot. And then the other round, you did a full song, and you could either accompany yourself or you could have them accompany you. And I had them accompany me on that. I don't remember if it was like just a piano or guitar, but I did "Broken Halos" by Chris Stapleton for that last round. And they didn't give us any feedback, but I did get a standing ovation from Katy Perry, so that was, cool.
Yeah, actions speak louder than words. So
Really.
then again, you would have needed two judges to be in your favor. So if you only had one standing ovation, you could still be left to wonder what your verdict would be.
Yes, and then that was when they did. After that is when they put you in the separate rooms,
Hmm.
and they come in and tell you whether your room made it or not. And of course, when you're in those rooms, you're like looking around, and you're not like judging the other contestants, but you're like, well, if this person's in the room, are we making it or are we not making
Yeah,
it? Or if you see somebody that's really good and you're like, okay, well, if they're in my room, then we're definitely making it because I know
yeah,
that they're going through. But even then, it's like you never know. Like I said earlier, there was so many great talented people that didn't make it past a certain level.
yeah. Well, it's three rooms, right? It's like there's like the one room where it's like, oh, everyone's through it, you're not through it all, and then there's like the kind of the wild card where you see people and you're like, okay, this person did really well, this person didn't do as well. Where do I stand? Like,
That was kind of how my room was. It was kind of a mix, and I was like, I don't know. That part was very nerve wracking. Probably the nerve. That was probably the most nerve wracking part for me. Is just like again because it goes back to the anticipation.
uh-huh.
Like we're sitting there, and I'm like, oh my god, are we gonna make it through?
But are you telling me that's more nerve-wracking than finding out whether or not you're gonna make the 24?
um. Yeah, I think so. Because, and honestly, this goes back to the like whole memory thing. Like when I don't want to skip ahead, but the Green Mile, like I don't really remember much from that. I feel like it was just one of those moments where I was just kind of like memory wise, like blacked out. I really don't remember. I don't remember the setup. I do remember walking down like the dark, kind of walkway. I remember Luke Bryan, because like I said in the beginning, he gave me a no, and he kind of was like not really, he wasn't really about me. But then by the end of it, when it came to the Green Mile, he was like, I know I kind of gave you a hard time, and he's like, whatever. But he said, Katie told me she kept pushing and saying, this kid's good, and by the end of it, he's like, you made me a fan. So that was really cool that I kind of had that moment on the Green Mile. But other than that, I don't remember much from that.
Do you remember the showcase performance that led up to the Green Mile?
Yes, the showcase performance, that was my favorite American Idol moment. Like, out of the whole thing, that was the best experience. Because, I mean, you had the whole production. I think it was like a 12-piece band behind you. They had three backup singers, bass player, lead guitarist, piano, drums, like the whole thing. And you're on this, huge stage, and they brought in a little over 300 people. And it was a live audience, so it wasn't like people you knew. I mean, what they did is everybody's families couldn't be in there at the same time, so they would bring each contestant's family in when it was their turn to perform, and they would be mixed into the crowd. Um, but that was definitely my favorite experience, just because am a very much a performer. Um, like I don't really play an instrument; I just sing and perform. So that was my element, being on a stage with a band behind me, and a crowd of people. Just because they had them right up against the stage, so it was one of those moments where you felt like you were at your own concert, like they were there to see you, and they were super excited. And I was going down the stage while I was singing and like shaking people's hands. And um, I don't really remember. I remember looking up at the judges maybe one time through my performance, but for the most part, I was just kind of focused on the crowd and, like I said, soaking in that experience and just having a good time, honestly. I had so much fun doing that performance.
I think that that's good that you focused more on the crowd because it's almost like you probably would rather look back and say that you ended on a note like that, where it's not about being on American Idol, but it's about being that artist and performing. Because I think that's what you guys want to feel like when you're on a stage, whether or not it's part of a competition show.
Right, and I think that's kind of what they were looking for that round is they wanted to see you. They didn't want you to focus on them or be, you'd already performed for them Hollywood Week and auditioning in front of them, so they've already experienced that, but they wanted to experience you in front of a live audience, and I think that's kind of what they wanted. They wanted you to focus on that. They didn't want you to even, you know that they were up there because they kind of the way they did it was they were sitting on like this little balcony thing. So they kind of, were set up in the back, so which was nice because they weren't like right in front of you, so you didn't, get nervous or, pay too much attention to them because you had everything else going on right in front of you.
Right, right. And what I can't remember if you told me, but what was your song choice that last round?
Somebody Else Will by Justin Moore, and it's just kind of one of those, upbeat, fun songs. Um, I know a lot of people picked, slow songs or, mid-tempo songs, but like I said, for me, I'm a performer, so I picked an upbeat, fun song so that I could, get the crowd into it and move around on stage. And I remember the rehearsal was very good. They worked with you, gave you as much time as you needed, however many times you needed to run through it. And the voice coaches were right there at the foot of the stage. They worked with you beforehand, but then when you came time to like the dress rehearsal, they were right there at the front of the stage, working with you, helping you to kind of map out how you wanted to work the stage and work the crowd. So that was very awesome, and they're very, hands on to help you.
If you didn't remember much about the Green Mile, like it sounds like there's not a ton you that you recall from the feedback, but I mean, do you remember the feeling of kind of not getting through and then what it was like to have to leave and kind of know that this was the end of your experience?
Yeah, and I think I'm, you know, different than a lot of people because I'm just a very, matter of fact, like it is what it is. It wasn't meant to be, wasn't my time. So it sucked only because I knew some of my, closer friends that I gotten close with were moving on, and I wish I would have been able to move on and, kind of experience all of that with them. But I mean, it was just one of those things that I was just like, it wasn't meant to be. Next time, I'll give it another try. I was just, blessed to be able to make it that far. I would have never guessed that I would have made it to the top 50 when it was my first time auditioning for American Idol. So I was just thankful that I'd made it that far and was able to have that experience.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it taught you a lot because even if it's the kind of thing that, has obviously been a long time and you may not have all those specific memories, but, you know, being on a show and having all those cameras and being around all those other people and trying new experiences, I feel like as a performer, you always benefit from that. And so I imagine in the last 4 or so years, there's always been times when you're like, oh, well, maybe I learned this from Idol or something a vocal coach said or something that I learned from playing to a camera. Like there's always probably things that you can use in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely learned a lot of stuff, and even like you said, to this day, I still think about, oh, I definitely, learned this when I was on American Idol, or that experience helped me to be more comfortable at doing this, or because for example, the interviews. They did so many interviews throughout the process, throughout Hollywood Week. All the way from the very first audition all the way up until the end. They just do so many interviews, and so that kind of was my downfall but I think after doing it, I definitely was more comfortable at doing interviews because I did so many of them. And it definitely helped me to get some bigger shows when I got back home because people were like, oh, he was on American Idol Top 50. And even now to this day, I mean, still in my town and stuff, people were like, oh, he was on American Idol. And it kind of helps to bring people to events and bring people to my shows and it's cool for them, especially for like kids and stuff, when they hear they're like, "You on American Idol?" They're
Yeah.
like, "Can I take a picture with you?" And even though I was never aired, it's still like I still get that experience with the kids, and they get to feel like, "Oh my gosh, I just met someone that was on American Idol."
Right.
So that's always one of my favorite things when I'm out singing.
Do you think you would ever do another singing competition show, or do you think that it's kind of in the past and you're just kind of going to go about things the way that they are now?
I don't think I would totally, count it out. I mean, I'm kind of right now doing my own thing, and I perform full time now. I wasn't doing that back then, so I do music for a living, and I have songs out already on iTunes and all of that. I have 5 songs, original songs, but I got a lot of stuff in the works, and so I'm going to be recording some new original stuff and releasing that soon. So I'm super excited about that.
Since you mentioned that, this may be a perfect time to mention our very new American Idol Unaired playlist on Spotify. I wanted to create an opportunity for all the artists who we've had on the show, in the past and just more recently to kind of put all their music out there whenever they want. And I've got some songs in there that I added, and you, Steven, have an open invitation whenever you want. There is a link so that artists can add their songs, new songs, stuff from the past, and it's just a place that people can go. If you hit the link in our bio, guys, there's the American Idol Unaired playlist on Spotify. So you can hit shuffle, you can listen to music from more recent guests from the past, so you can always stay in the loop with American Idol Unaired guests.
That's a really cool idea, and I appreciate you, allowing me to put my music on there. I will definitely do that.
Thank you. Yeah, speaking of music, I would love to hear you sing. So if you want to do a live performance for us, tell me what you were thinking of playing.
So when I remember saying that as soon as I got back from American Idol, I finished writing and releasing my first song, and that one was called "Like That." It was my first original song. If you don't mind, I'll go ahead and do that. I'm gonna play a track that I have and just sing it.
For sure. Really quickly, guys, before we get to the performance, I just want to say another thing. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to write a review on Apple Podcasts. Even if you're not listening on Apple, if you're on YouTube watching or you're on Spotify or any of the platforms, if you go to Apple Podcast or really any platform that lets you write a review, I believe Spotify does not at the moment, but if you write a review about American Idol Unaired, it will drive up the algorithm, help us get featured on the homepage. So if you want to do that, that would be a really big help to us. We would really appreciate it. So thank you so much. And Steven, I cannot wait to hear this performance of Like That.
You gave me your love and you took it back. Why you gotta break my heart like that? I know I'm supposed to be strong, move on like a man, but I can't, 'cause I just gotta say I fell for you like the rain falls in June. No matter how hard I tried, all it took was a look in your eyes, just one look, and I fell for you like that. Yeah. Now I'm reminiscing, looking back, when you used to wear my old ball cap. Girl, it's been so long since you've gone. I should move on, but I can't, 'cause I just can't forget. I fell for you like that rain falls in June. No matter how hard I tried, all it took was a look in your eyes. Just one look and I fell for you like that. Riding shotgun in my pickup truck with the windows down and the music up. The look in your eyes, the breeze in your hair, we didn't have a care. I fell for you like that rain falls in June, yeah. No matter how hard I tried, all it took was a look in your eyes, just one look, and I fell for you like that. Oh, yeah. You gave me your love and you took it back.
Look out, country radio. I smell a hit.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Oh man, I really enjoyed that. I could like totally picture the crowd, if you're on stage, like the girls in the front of the mosh pit doing the wave. If you're not watching, I'm doing the hand wave.
A lot of people really love that song. Friends, family, even I was just singing at a show Saturday morning at like a brunch place, and I sang it, and I hadn't sang it in a while, so I completely just and I really got into the moment. Like I was just deeply like listening to the lyrics as I was singing it, and I got lost, and it come to the second verse, and I was like, I don't even remember the second verse. So then I got done and I told the people, I was like, I just completely forgot the second verse of my own song. And they were like, well, just do it again. We loved it. Do it again. So I literally just restarted it and did it all over again, and they listened to it again.
I love that you got lost in your own song. That's like a beautiful thing, you know? Like you were just feeling it so much, and I think the audience is so forgiving. Like it's almost like you think of American Idol, and they're always saying, "Oh, well, like forgetting the lyrics is like going to be awful." Funny enough, like your friend Katie Turner, she forgot the lyrics on her performance, her last performance. But in the real world, it's like the audience loves that because they know that it's real.
Yeah, and I try to tell people that all the time. I have friends that are either just getting into singing, or they're like, "How are you so comfortable on stage?" And like I said earlier, I'm not a very nervous person most of the time, especially not when it comes to singing and performing, because that's where I feel at home. So it's like when you're at home, you don't get nervous. You're not uncomfortable when you're at home. You're comfortable. That's your home. So when I get on stage, that's how I am. And they're like, "Well, I just get so nervous. Like, what if I forget the words or this?" And I'm like, who cares? I'm like, people love that. And like Katie did, she made it funny. I'm like, just make it funny. And that's what I did. I was just like, I completely forgot the second verse of my own song. And they were like, well, that's okay. What is it? We want to hear it. And they were like, just do it again. Do you remember it now? And, I do that all the time. And even if I'm singing a cover song and I forget a word or something, I'll be like, I just messed up this song. Or I
Yeah.
just forgot the word. And people laugh and think it's funny. I mean, we're just human. We're bound to forget or mess up or do something. We're not perfect.
I know Lionel Richie has talked about that a lot on like he on the show a lot. He's made comments when contestants forget lyrics about how he's done that and like how the crowd just eats it up. I mean, it's live. That's what's exciting about live music is that you never know what's going to happen, but not in a way of like, oh, we want to watch somebody fail. It's like, no, we want to watch somebody feel the music so much that they show that they're human.
Right. Or, if you start crying or whatever it might be, like whatever you're feeling, don't sit there and try to hide it. Like just be you, be normal, and just, like you said, feel the music and let it go.
Yeah. Another American Idol moment. I don't know if you ever heard of a contestant named Hunter Metz. He was on season 19, but he cried and he lost it. And then Katy Perry was really encouraging him. He couldn't stop crying, but they were really emphasizing that, it's okay. Like it only made people like him more.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how it is. People love when you're real. Like they want to feel like they're your best friend, even if they don't know you. They just want to feel like they know you, and whenever you do stuff like that, they feel like they are, getting an inside look at your life and how you feel and your emotions. they like to see that.
Hopefully, anybody listening to this interview, if they're lucky enough that they are close enough to you, they can come see a show, or if you're touring, they can see a show, or if they want to just follow you so that they can feel like they're getting to know you, where can people go to find out more info about your shows? Where can they follow you on social media or stream your music? I want to give you the chance to plug all of that.
All of my social media is Stephen Quinn Music, and a lot of people go to look me up and they're like, I couldn't find you. And I said, well, did you spell my name right? Because I spell Stephen with a PH, so it's
Right.
Sphen, Quinn Music. And that's all my social media. I do have a website, but I'm working on, kind of rebuilding that, rebranding myself. So my website's a little messy. So probably the best place is Instagram and Facebook. That's where I post my weekly schedule. That's where I post if I have a big event coming up. Most of my stuff is consistently in Florida for now. I live in North Florida, so that's kind of where most of my shows are. So if there's somebody local in North Florida or in the Florida area and you want to make a little trip to come see me, that would be awesome. I love meeting new people and making connections with people.
Awesome. Well, I've really enjoyed getting to know you, Steven. It's really been a pleasure taking a walk down memory lane and also thinking about what's ahead for you because I feel like it's so exciting to think about what's going on for you musically and just, again, getting kind of that glimpse into your world and who you are as an artist. So, guys, if you enjoyed this conversation with Steven and you have not already subscribed, as I mentioned in the beginning, hit that subscribe button wherever you are listening or watching. It's very easy. It's right there. Just tap subscribe so that you don't miss a note of American Idol Unaired. And you can follow us on Instagram or TikTok at Idol Unaired Podcast. As I also mentioned before, you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It would be a huge help. It would drive up the algorithm. I would really appreciate that. So overall, thank you so much for listening or watching. And Steven, thank you so much for being a part of American Idol Unaired.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey everybody, so after Stephen and I finished recording, he mentioned some little fun stories about memories with some contestants who you probably remember if you watched season 16. So I asked him to re-record, kind of talking about that a little bit. It's just kind of a 2-minute clip. Didn't really know where to fit it into the interview. So if you want to check it out, here it is.
So during my time in between, like the top 50 and the Hollywood week, my roommate was Noah Davis, which was obviously one of my favorite people just because he's one super talented, but he's also
Wig.
just, yeah, wig, right? He's also just super funny. So I was, excited that I had one of those roommates because I don't know if everybody gets paired with somebody that they end up liking or, kind of click with. And we just did. We always had a good time and had fun. So that was super cool. And then another funny thing that happened during that time was one night, like I love Chick-fil-A. I'm from the South. I love, Chick-fil-A. It's one of my things. And I was trying to find somebody to go with me. It was like 9 o'clock at night, but none of us had cars. So we had to pay for Ubers to go everywhere. And so I ended up, Maddie Poppy answered and she was like, I'll go to Chick-fil-A with you. I was like, okay, don't worry about it. I'm paying for the Uber. Like, let's go. And we ended up going to Chick-fil-A and we were wearing like sweatpants and a t-shirt, like in our sleep clothes, going to get Chick-fil-A at 9 o'clock at night in LA. And I was like, this is just one of those things that you like don't forget. I think I have a picture of me and her. Let me see. It was right here. Here it is. And we're on the, like I said, I think it's like the corner of Sunset or
Oh my
whatnot.
gosh. Wow.
And back then, I had a baby face. I didn't even have a beard or anything.
Wow.
So that
Yeah.
was one of the kind of one of those memories that stands out for me because it was just like outside of the competition, we had so much fun and just, connecting with other contestants and, making those friendships was really cool.